in times in my life, and if I'm not careful, where I find myself still in that place, in that state of, please like me. I want you to think highly of me. I want you to like me. I mold myself into the person you want me to be. And what has freed me up from that is living life fully awake, being awake to who I am and being brave about it, showing up authentically in that way. And it's not going to be well received. It simply isn't, because what people want is not necessarily who you are, but the people who gain the most from you shaping, molding yourself to be a certain way are going to have a huge problem, an issue with you suddenly releasing, letting go of what others think, and just showing up as you are and who you are. And I think part of that, the big part of that, is first uncovering that for yourself first. Like, who am I underneath all the layers of conditioning, underneath my own expectations of myself, where I tend to criticize myself, where I feel like I'm not good enough. Where is that within me? What are the parts of myself that I have not fully embraced? And then how can I love her? Because if I can do that, if I can love her well, I'm anchored in deeply into who I am, then I really don't give a crap what other people think. That's the reality of it, because I know who I am, what I stand for, what my beliefs are, and I stand firmly in that truth. And that is my desire for you, that if you're here, there's been a part of you that feels like you've suppressed yourself in a lot of ways, because a good daughter, a good wife, whatever the other labels, a good Christian, a good whatever it is, that you feel like box you in, that causes you then to show up as like this knockoff version of yourself. And my invitation to you is to fully embrace living life fully awake. If you only, and this isn't to say to go all crazy about it and like super wild, right? There's difference between, like what people say, you only live once. I think there's, some extremities there, and like where people go to the extremes, but instead it's really more so intentional. What do I want with this one beautiful life that I have given, and how can I live that well? That is the premise of this, my podcast, the Fully Awake podcast, is, as I've shared, and maybe you haven't heard me speak about it, was this podcast, the Fully Awake podcast, was inspired by a dear friend of mine, such a beautiful soul. And what I love about her was that she lived her life well. She had this mantra of love God, love people, and she deeply loved people. And so for me, just going into, and I don't know when you'll hear this, but in 2024, the word that kept coming back to me, and what I woke up to on New Year's Day, and it's just, I felt it so powerfully, was love. And how can I channel love? How can I bring more love into everything that I do? How can I bring more love into my interactions? And then for you, I want you to allow yourself to be so open to receiving divine guidance and downloads, where it's like, okay, what am I being led to be more of? And for me this year, it's like, how can I just play with the frequency of love? How can I explore what that looks like in my business and in my life? And I think that just goes so well with living your life fully awake, because when we live our life fully awake, it allows us then to just be so in love with the life that we cultivate now. Not 10 years from now, not a decade from now, not when you're retired and it's like, oh, the kids are out of the house and get to do all these things. But I say, no, what if you get to do that now? What would you do with this one beautiful life, where come December of 2024, and you reflect back and you're like, wow, I have lived my life so well. And I can honestly say, holding on to this mantra of living life fully awake has allowed me, as I reflect back year after year, to be so in love with the life that I've cultivated, so in love with my husband. I fall deeply deeper and deeper in love with him every single year, where he has grown in so many ways, like as a father, as a husband, as a person. Like I can love him as just another soul. And I think part of that also has to do with, my husband and I were actually best friends before we dated and all, the typical steps. But it's just being in love with this person. And then the same in like my relationships with like friendships and like my sisters. And, and when I say sisters, is just like that extension of like my community and then my clients. And it just goes so beyond that in every area. And then, so that's what I deeply want to cultivate, especially this year. It's like, I just feel so powerfully that this is the frequency and energy I'm going to play with this year. It's like love is that energy and the frequency. And that's what I'm coming home to, and what I truly love, I guess, about life. And so for you, my invitation is really, how can you live life fully awake? If you can give yourself permission to have anything, to experience anything, permission to have more memory making experiences, what would that look like? How can you cultivate it more in your everyday, moment to moment? And then just looking at, the things that you do want to do, perhaps the experiences, the vacations that you wanted to take with your family or with friends, or that trip or whatever it is. Like, how can you cultivate a life this year where there's more room for memory making? And when we're thinking about our business, how can you still fall so deeply in love with your business where you just feel like, oh, this is all of me. This is what I wanted to bring. And come December 2024, it's like, wow, I built that. And it could be part-time, full-time, whatever that looks like. You have permission to do it all, and you have permission to do it the way you desire to really build a business that works that is built around your life, because our businesses should not be running our lives. And I just believe so powerfully in living fully awake in all areas and having the freedom, the money freedom, right? When we talk about like just financial freedom, and then the emotional freedom, I think it's just so vital to having and experience the freedom, the peace, the love, the joy, all of it that you desire. And I truly believe that you can have it all. So here's to you living this one beautifully powerful, magnificent life fully awake.